Hello, goddesses, and welcome to episode 76. So, if I were to tell you that you could have access to every question that you could ever ask, of all the information that you would ever want to know about yourself, about your life, would you want to know more? And what if I told you that all of this said information is available to each and every one of us through our dreams? And that is exactly what I talked with Patch and Sara Drury today in this episode. Patch and Sara Drury are these... I'm chuckling because I'm still laughing at what a great time we had, what a great conversation we had. But Patch and Sara Drury are dream analysts, and they have a podcast called Dreamlovers. They have this growing TikTok community, and they also have this membership called the Dream Circle, where they help people analyze their dreams so that they can take that information from their dreams and apply it to their life in order to advance their life, in order to understand themselves better, whatever the goal is in the end. So without further ado, please welcome Patch and Sara Drury. And before we start the conversation, I just want to tell all of you goddesses listening that I am so grateful for each and every one of you who downloads every week, who listens, who tunes in. If you have found value, if you found some information that you've listened to in this podcast, whether it's today or it was another episode, would you kindly leave a review in iTunes? I guess it's not called iTunes anymore, though, is it? I think it's called Apple Podcasts now. I would be so grateful, because what that's going to do is it helps me spread the word, spread the message of positivity, of empowerment, of breaking down old paradigms, of living authentically, all the messages that we talk about in this podcast. It helps get it into more ears. So would you kindly do that? I would greatly appreciate that. So I am so excited. You guys are in for a treat. I don't think you fully realize how much of an amazing episode this is. So please welcome Patch and Sara Drury. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. I am delighted and honored to introduce my next guests. By the way, this is the first time I'm actually having more than one guest as my guest, and a couple. So I'm really, really excited. So I'd love to welcome to the podcast today, Patch and Sara Drury. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi. We're
Good.
so happy to be
Thank you
here.
for having us.
So excited, so excited. Welcome, you guys. So this topic is something that I find so interesting, and I mention it here and there on the podcast, but we're actually going to have experts talking about this today. We're going to talk all about dreaming and dream time. So first of all, before we begin or go further, I would love if you guys can introduce yourselves, tell the audience, the goddesses listening, who you are and how you help people.
Well, hello, fire goddesses. Is that what you said, fire goddesses?
Yeah.
So hello, fire goddesses. I am not a fire goddess, as you might be able to determine from my voice. But my name is Patch, Patch Drury, and I'm here with my wife, Sara. If you could see us, if podcasting weren't simply an audio format, you would notice that she is much more attractive than I am. She is beautiful and gorgeous, and she's glowing today. I've told her that several times today. She is glowing today. But we're dream therapists, and so what we do is we help people decode the sometimes mysterious, sometimes confusing imagery of their dreams, because we believe that there is important wisdom, there is ancient wisdom that is contained in your dreams. And unfortunately, all of us have been dreaming, whether we remember or not, multiple times a night for all our lives. And we tend to just kind of write it off as, oh, well, that's a movie that I watch sometimes when I'm asleep. It's so much more than that. It's wisdom about how to live. It is it is a direct connection to your essential self, to your essential essence. And it's trying to tell you how to do things, and it's encouraging you, and it's loving you, and it's advising you. And so Sara and I, we help people decode those strange messages and then apply the wisdom to their lives.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so that's kind of where I come in with it too, is specifically around the subconscious mind. That is my probably greatest obsession in life, is understanding and communicating with the subconscious mind. And dreaming and dream time is another way that we can do that and tap into that wisdom.
I just want to point out my obsession is Sara. Hers is the unconscious mind, but she's mine.
That's so cute. I love this. I was saying offline, like, I may or may not laugh throughout this entire episode today, and you guys are just going to have to take over. Okay, are you ready for that?
Sara's not laughing. She's shaking her head.
I feel like his greatest obsession is just making me feel uncomfortable.
I love it. I love it. So tell me, you guys, how did you get into dream decoding? And, you know, I would love to know a little bit more about your journey with this specifically.
Yeah, well, I want Patrick to go ahead with this, because it's interesting how it came about. But as I said, my obsession is with the subconscious mind, and then he has been studying archetypes and mythology for pretty much his entire life. So that's why I was like, go ahead, you start, and then it's like I come in and start to figure out how we apply the wisdom. So you go ahead.
I was really into two things growing up. Growing up, I was into Superman and I was into Jesus. Like, those were the two things. And as I've gotten older, my relationship with both things has changed. I used to, as a kid, I read comics, I watched cartoons. If it had the Superman symbol on it, I had to have it. I'm 48 now, so I'm not quite as obsessive about that relationship. And when I was a kid, I was in church 3 times a week. I was the religious kid. I didn't get invited to parties because people thought I was a narc because I was so religious. I went to Bible college. I worked in ministry for a while, but now my relationship with that has changed. I still recognize this divinity and this importance to who Jesus is and his teachings and stuff, but it's not a mainstream Orthodox Christian relationship with him. It's a recognition of him as a symbol of something else. And so, because I was into those two things growing up, those are like arguably the two largest Western symbols for transcendence, for something higher than us. And so I was just kind of grew up immersed in those. And eventually that led to an obsession, and Sara would agree that it was an obsession for a while, with Joseph Campbell and with the hero's journey and his work in mythology and myth. And I spent a lot of time with my nose in a Joseph Campbell book or in a mythology book, just figuring out that imagery and what it means and why it's there and what it does for us. And then you can't read Joseph Campbell without eventually falling into Carl Jung. And in Carl Jung, the biggest pillar of his work was dream work. That's how he did a lot of his psychoanalysis, was through dream work. And so in that, I kind of recognized, like, okay, I've been living in this Venn diagram that has these circles of religion and superheroes and mythology. And the center of those 3 circles was discovering, living up to what I described earlier as your essential nature. All of these things are pointing you towards how can you be the best you can be? How can you become your sacred self? How can you become your highest self? There's so many words for it in the personal development and in that world, people, higher self and sacred self and everything. But the idea is all of these things are signs that are pointing you towards this thing, and the easiest way to talk to this thing is in dreams. That's where the clearest communication comes.
Mm. Wow, that is so, so cool. Sara, did you want to add to that? Or
Yeah, it was interesting because along the same time that he's really getting into like Carl Jung, I'm also studying alchemy and magic and all of these things, and it's so interesting how the world started to weave together. And I said my obsession is the subconscious mind, but really what I meant was that my obsession is being becoming my highest version of myself, and assisting other people in that journey for themselves as well. And so these two worlds started to kind of marry together and kind of merge together in some ways. And this is kind of how we ended up coming together to team up around this. So yeah. So
that's lovely. And I love that it's something that it's like a common ground, and you developed a podcast out of this too,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and which is brand new, right? It just released.
Yeah, we have 4 episodes.
4 episodes, and a new one goes out tomorrow. So the 5th one will go out tomorrow as we record this.
Great. And it's called Dreamlover. Dreamlover. Yeah, so anyone listening that really wants to dive in, we'll definitely mention all of your contact information and ways to find you guys at the end, but it's called Dreamlover if you just need to listen to it right after this episode. So so this is I just love this, and I know that we have so much to talk about today. So maybe we can start with Patch specifically. When you mentioned getting in touch with your sacred self, I would love to know, like, how can you use dreaming and dream time to really elevate yourself and become a better version of yourself?
Okay, great question. So I mentioned Jung was kind of the doorway into this in a lot of ways. And Jung said some things that, you have to start somewhere. So I kind of started like, okay, well, I think my mindset is pretty Jungian. But since then, I feel like it's kind of expanded because Jung himself said, you have to be ready with each person that you're dealing with to develop a completely new theory of how dreams work. And so, but what he his overarching guiding thing was that dreams were compensatory, meaning that your normal self, your ego, your personality, it has a way that it thinks. And sometimes it thinks successfully, sometimes it thinks really well, really is on the right track. And then sometimes we all know we have blind spots. We have things we screw up at. We have things we're not good at. And so Jung believed that our dreams were this potential future higher self stepping in and saying, if you want to get to here, if you want to become this thing, you need to correct your thinking. And so I've said my theory of dreams is kind of, it encapsulates Jungian thought, but it also is a little broader. So yeah, I think your dreams always have something to add to the way you're thinking. Sometimes it's going to look like a correction. Sometimes it's going to say, hey, turn the boat around, you're going the wrong direction. But sometimes your dream is going to say, hey, I love you. You are doing so well and you're trying so hard. And I just want to encourage you that there's a thing inside of you that loves you unconditionally. And I think that is as valuable as being corrected sometimes. One of my recent obsessions is this Canadian indigenous tribe called the Naskapi people. And the NASCAP, they stumbled upon Jungian thought before Jung was even alive. They had a theory that our dreams are sent to us by, they would call it either the great man or our friend. And I love the idea that our dreams are sent to us by a friend that lives inside of us, because sometimes a friend challenges you. Sometimes a friend encourages you. Sometimes a friend gives you a mission. Sometimes a friend tells you what to focus on. And so that is, it's kind of what Sarah and I have really tried to do with this new work, is say, what is your friend saying to you? And if you have a friend that really loves you and is telling you something, listen.
Yeah.
Because they're invested in your future and your success. So did I answer the question, or did I just go off onto a tangent?
Yes, you did answer the question. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, good.
A little of both, but we got there.
I tend to black out while I'm talking, and then I come to and I'm like, what did I just say? I have no idea.
I love your passion. This is like so exciting.
I was people at the Panera don't. I gave that same speech to the Panera drive-through lady, and she was like, please pull forward. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love it. My question is, okay, so, and this is direct. This can be, Sarah, you might want to answer this.
I'll jump in on this one.
I don't want anyone to feel left out here. So, what about when people, so, Patch really beautifully described, like this friend that's coming to us, in our dream to help us out, to guide us, to say, I love you, to say, go in this direction, or maybe reel it back. And I'm just curious to know, as far as the content of dreams, like what you're actually dreaming about. Because I know a lot of people that listening, they're like, well, I dreamt of this random like banana man, visited me in the grocery store, and it made absolutely no sense. So for people that are listening and they're like, my dream, I have weird dreams and they don't make any sense. I don't see how it could apply to being my best friend. How is that helping me?
Yeah. And this is exactly why we wanted to do what we're doing, is because dreams are always just the most bizarre thing. Like you're saying, a banana in a grocery store, a banana man, walks up to me. It's always something like that. I mean, most of the time, for most of us, I mean, I'm sure there are some people who their dreams make a lot of sense to them, and that's wonderful. But for most people, it's almost another language. It's a language that you are very unfamiliar with. And even now, like even knowing everything that I know, I still will have a tendency to be like, that didn't make any sense. I don't need to write that one down because that was just weird. And then I'll be like, bring it and we'll be discussing it. It just happened today, we'll be discussing it and be like, oh my goodness, it actually makes perfect sense for what's happening right now. Right. So that would be the encouragement, is to look at your dreams as if you are decoding a language. And the first thing to do around that is just to start writing them down, even if they make zero sense to you. And then come listen to our podcast, because then we help you decode it. But essentially, it really is like learning a new language. Patrick, I can't remember who you said this quote was from, but the letters from God, like it's like dreams are like unopened. If you don't decode them, if you don't understand them, it's like having an unopened letter from God. So who was it that said that?
It's from the Torah, actually. I believe, not the Torah. It's Jewish wisdom. Basically, there was a specific rabbi it's been attributed to, but I don't feel comfortable making that claim.
Google it. It wasn't us. This is and I thought that was one of the best ways to describe the dream, because again, we tend to not want to open it or not look at it because we think it doesn't make sense. But if you understand that it actually is a direct message from the spirit world, and you start to just view it with that lens, it allows you to just be like, okay, maybe it's not just a banana man. What was the banana man trying to tell me? That I could then take that wisdom and apply it in my life, and actually what would happen in my life if I got the message and I were able to bring that in and course correct if I needed to, or get the message of love, or whatever it may be.
And is it
I'd like to talk about what a banana man represents real quick. I'm just kidding. But Sarah is 100% correct. And this message that's coming from God, or from our higher, whatever, wherever you want to describe what it's coming from, it kind of wraps itself in our experiences. And so if you are dreaming of a banana man, then the easiest thing to do, and this is so simple, and this is the heart of dream analysis, you start making associations. Like when I think of a banana, what are the first two things that come to mind? And so yellow. So maybe yellow comes to mind, or appeal. And here's the really funny thing. Your dreams have an incredible sense of humor. They love puns. And so
it's metaphor. It's all metaphor.
Yeah. And so if you dream of a banana, the first thing you may see is, well, yellow, but that doesn't resonate. So appeal. Well, appeal is a thing. It's appeal, but it's also a word, appeal. So is there something about being appealing that is communicating to you in your dream? And that's the kind of little tricks and little puns that dreams love to immerse themselves in. And so if you are someone who's having weird dreams and you're having trouble deciphering them, just sit down, write out all the nouns, all the verbs, all the adjectives in the dream in a line, and then just write the first two associations you have next to each one. And then you start looking for a through line, like where does all this stuff kind of congeal together?
This is so helpful, and I feel like it's going to help a lot of people. And I mean, I just think about like I have so many questions, but I think about some of the dreams I have, and I'm like, and usually I'll get up and just like journal out what it is. But you said basically to wake up and come up with words, like simplify it almost. Like, what are the first words?
You would want to journal it out first. So you're definitely doing it in the right order, because you almost want to like not move as much as possible, because it's like in that moving, I think it starts to sort of dissipate. And so then you're grabbing your journal, you're writing it out, just every bit of detail that you can imagine. And then Patrick, your suggestion.
Yeah, and then use the words and notice a pattern.
Right. Then you go into the word association and say, oh, in this dream, I noticed that there's a banana man. So I write banana man, and then banana. What is banana? Right. So then you just start to pick it all apart.
What about
something else you could do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Patch. Go ahead.
Something else you could do that Sarah and I did today that I think would be really helpful is not just write it down, not just do the association list, but if you have a friend that you can talk to about it, describe the dream to the person, because little truths will come out in your wording that you won't realize just writing it down. But when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, I never really said it that way. I never really thought of it that way. And so there's something really valuable about telling it out loud to another person.
What about if like you just use your phone like as a voice memo? Would that be as effective?
That's how I record mine in the middle of the night, because I know if I write it, I'm going to wake myself up. So I just pull up the memo thing. I do a couple of words that I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
And then the next morning when I'm awake, I take those memos and I write out and usually those couple of words are enough to trigger my memory of the dream. I write it out in detail based on that memo.
That's a great tip, because I feel like, well, I guess I want to ask this first. Does dreaming happen in layers? Like, I guess I'm thinking of the movie Inception. So is that actually a thing? Do dreams happen in layers, or like, you know, because I feel like there's times where I'll be recalling a dream and then it will take me back another layer and I'm like, oh, like there's this deeper, and sometimes it feels very like I'm really accessing a very deep part. Is that true? Is that actually what's going on?
Here's what I'll say is there are 7 billion people on the planet right now. So there are 7 billion things that are true about how dreams work. So if you feel like that's what's happening in your dream, then 100% I would say, okay, pull that thread. What's, if you get to the bottom of it and that's what it feels like, then 100%. If anyone ever says, oh no, dreams don't do that, or yes, dreams always do that, that person is probably pulling out of their butt a little bit, you know. There's no one specific answer to how they work, but if you feel like there is an inception level, like they goes deeper and deeper and deeper, then 100% I would think that's probably happening. What I do feel pretty confident about, after I just said doubt people who are too confident, from night to night you'll have dreams that kind of seem to follow a theme. And so one night you may dream about a dog flying, and the next night you dream about a dog driving a car, and the next night you dream about a dog starting a business, you know, like and so the fact that there's something thematically similar about these dreams usually means your subconscious, yourself, God, whatever, is really trying to hammer home a point. He really wants you to notice something. And so the dreams kind of work like little mini series where there's compartmentalized topics.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I love that. So I know that there's going to be people out there that are listening that are going to want to know, or they're really adamant. Like you know, I know people that are very adamant about this. I do not dream.
Oh.
I don't dream. I haven't dreamt in years. Like my mom, perfect example. I don't dream. And I know everybody dreams, but I'm wondering if either one of you would like to speak to that, because I think that's an important subject.
Sara, what have we seen happen in your group?
Yeah, so we're kind of doing a little bit of an experiment, I would say, to see like how can we specifically benefit people. And so with pulling in the dream experience as well and starting to track these things, and there have been people who everybody dreams. So first of all, just to answer your question, no, everybody dreams. You're just not remembering your dreams, and that's okay. There are ways to recall that. But to my point, there have been people, you know, in the group that we're working with who haven't, you know, remembered their dreams. But then all of a sudden, when you start to become really intentional about it, and you start to, you know, just literally just setting an intention, but two, starting to follow some of the things that we talk about to remember dreams, which we can share if you like. But then you do start to remember more and more and more. And the more you're writing it down, the more you're communicating back and forth with this part of yourself, the more it's going to open up to you even more. And so just even if we think about just the subconscious and the command that you're giving by saying, oh, I never remember my dreams. Well, you're just commanding yourself to not remember your dreams, right? Even more and more and more, you're just going to have that experience. But if you start saying, I want to remember my dreams. I choose to remember my dreams. I intend to remember my dreams, and really start setting that intention in like as you're going to sleep and that kind of thing, then you're going to start remembering your dreams more and more and more. And, you know, I don't remember them every night. Still, I have have, we were just on vacation, and I don't think, I'm just, again, like, I know I dreamed, but when I woke up, they were gone. Every single day of vacation, I was like, I didn't remember a dream last night, So there are definitely people who don't remember their dreams, but everybody dreams, and you can definitely remember them. And Patrick, I know you have some other thoughts on that.
I've already described this dream, the friend that sends you your dreams. When we call it a friend, we're kind of implying a relationship.
Yeah.
And so Sara is my best friend. And so if every day I say to her, I don't feel like you love me, I don't feel love coming from you, then eventually, after I do that enough, she's going to be like, well, if he's not feeling it, I'm not going to keep doing the stuff I'm doing, because it's not making an impact. But and to Sara's point, what she says, when you get intentional, when you start paying attention, when you start saying, I want to remember these dreams, I want to learn from these dreams, it's kind of like if Sara did something nice for me to show her love, and I really noticed, and I said, Sara, I really loved it when you did this, and I really get why you did this. Showing that interest makes Sara want to do it more and more. And so the Nascapi people that I've already mentioned, they believed, like, when you paid attention to your dreams, and this is the important part, you do what they're telling you, when you follow the wisdom they send you, then they say, okay, you did that, I'm going to send you an even better one next time. And so the key is to key into this relationship, see it as a relationship, see it as like, all of us grew up, we've been dreaming every night all of our lives, and just because we don't pay attention, the dreams have never stopped coming. Like, that part of ourself is still sending us dreams. It's not going to get its feelings hurt, but it can be encouraged. And so when we encourage it by paying attention, it says, all right, let's do this, let's go.
And this is another important point that he just brought up, is it also wants you to be acting on that wisdom, acting on the messages. And again, it's sort of like not going to keep sending them, or it will, but it might get a little quieter. Whereas when you get intentional, it's going to start getting louder. So then you start discovering and uncovering and decoding these messages. And that is one part. Right? That is one piece of this, being intentional about dreaming and starting to write them down and starting to remember them and then decoding them. And you can't stop there. If you stop there, you haven't done the work, right? That's only like a little piece of it. And so again, this is sort of where my expertise comes in, because then it's really this, as we've discovered now that your dream has asked you to be more courageous or whatever it may be, now we have to go find a way to do that. And so we have to, in some way ritualize the dream and allow the subconscious to know that you have gotten the message. Subconscious, superconscious, higher self, whatever we want to call it, input your favorite word here. But we have to make sure that we are acknowledging and acting on that communication. And that's where things start to get, as I like to say, magical, because that's where things really start shifting in our outer waking reality.
It's so powerful. So what I'm hearing you guys say is really it's a muscle or a habit, right? It's not a passive activity. It's something that we choose to work on every day.
100%.
Yeah.
And did you say it was your mom that doesn't remember dreams?
That is correct. Yes.
Will she listen to this podcast?
She does listen to the podcast, but I am going to send her this one once it comes out, because I think it will be good.
What's her name? What's her first name?
Paula,
this is Patch. If you're listening to me, here's the number one thing you can do. Here's a hack for starting to remember your dreams. Okay. Before you go to bed, drink an entire bottle of water. And this is true. Everybody I've said it to, it works.
It works.
Drink a bottle of water. And so eventually your body is going to wake you up because it has to empty its bladder, it has to pee. And the place it will most likely do that is when you're in REM sleep. So REM sleep is when it's when most of the dreaming happens, but it's when your body's not fixing itself. It's when your body is not in this restorative work. And so it's not going to interrupt the restorative work unless it absolutely has to. So if it's going to wake you up, it's going to wake you up during REM. So Paula, tonight, when you hear this, drink a bottle of water right before bed. Drink two if maybe you already drink a bottle of water. Get your bladder full, and that will wake you up, and you will be more likely to start remembering dreams, because we remember dreams that we wake up during. When we become conscious during that dream, that's when we remember.
That is brilliant, Pat. She is going to love, love, love the fact that you just mentioned her name. That up.
I love it.
Paula, I can get my phone number to you. Call me. We can talk about this. I can answer questions. I'm here for you, Paula. I want to help you.
She's gonna love it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And for anybody listening who's struggling, whether your name is Paula, whether you're my mom, or you're somebody else listening and struggling, I think what Sara and Patch just offered is really, really valuable. And that is one thing that I know that I need to get better at, is when I wake up to pee, that's usually when I'm like, oh my God, I just dreamt of blah, blah, blah. And then I just go back to sleep. And yeah, I think that's a really, really important piece of advice. So thank you.
Speaking of that, though, you have a little dream that we can kind of dig into, and so then people can kind of see this whole process in action if you want to.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I have a recurring dream that I've had for quite a while. It doesn't happen that often, but it's definitely a recurring dream. And then I have one that I just had last week that's kind of funny. So which one do you want to hear first?
So my initial suggestion would be, which one has the most emotional charge for you? Which one are you thinking about the most? But I would also say, if you're having a recurring one, you may not be getting an important message.
That's what I was
And so let's do the recurring one. Let's
yes. Okay.
Yeah, if it's recurring, that's kind of the thing, is maybe you're not getting the message, and so it keeps coming. And so this, for anyone who has recurring dreams, it's sort of saying like, nope, you still haven't gotten it, or there hasn't been an acknowledgement of the message. So I think we should dig into this one.
Okay. I love this. So the recurring dream, which has been going on probably for 20 years, I would say right after 9/11, is that I'm either in or observing a very low flying airplane. Like, I'm literally in this airplane darting skyscrapers. Nothing bad ever happens, but I'm literally either watching it from the ground or in the airplane that's flying very, very, very low. And it's always a little I always wake up feeling like that it also feels very real, like I was actually a part of it.
And feeling bad, good, frustrated, angry, scared.
I would say, yeah, it doesn't always feel great. Although I feel like in 20 years, it's felt, it doesn't feel as scary, but in the beginning, it definitely was very scary. What else can I tell you about it? A lot of times the plane is like going, like I'm watching from the ground, and it's shooting up into the sky like a rocket, and then it falls down. So I guess maybe that's the bad part.
You're both inside and outside the plane?
Yeah, so in some dream, when I'm watching the plane shoot up, I'm not in the plane. But usually when I'm in the plane, it's very low to the ground. And
you've been having these since 9/11, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my first question, is the question that's going to make me look like a total hack, but I'll accept that. What do you think the dream means?
I think that it has something to do with, I'm not fearful of flying, though I do get some flight anxiety, but I think it has something to do with me actually witnessing that in my lifetime, being an observer of something like that.
You're saying you think potentially it's precognitive, like it's predicting you're going to experience that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like it's a concern that it could actually happen, like a low, not necessarily me being in a plane, but to watch a plane try, like, going really low, like helicopter, lower than a helicopter.
Okay. So I believe dreams can be precognitive. I believe that friend that sends us the dreams, it is not bound by space and time the way we are, and so it uses our memories to color and inform our dreams, but it remembers the future as much as it remembers the past. So I say that to say I don't discount that. It could be. I think there are some rules that precognitive dreams tend to follow. And if this were a podcast on precognitive dreams, we could get into that. But I'm more interested. Let's let's go back to the idea that this dream is being sent to you by a friend. So, do you think that friend has been telling you for 20 years, you're going to witness this? Like, does that seem like an important message from the friend? Or do you think maybe a friend is trying to tell you something about yourself?
Intuitively, I think back when 9/11 happened, like it was, I worried that maybe that was possible, but now, I mean, it's been so long. I don't believe that anymore, that it's actually a realistic dream. But I feel that the friend is probably telling me something, like delivering a message. Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I 100% am with you on that. So you're low to the ground. You're flying between skyscrapers. Sometimes when you're on the ground,
even.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Darting, even. Darting.
Yes.
So that was good, Sarah. Thank you. To me, what I'm getting, and so this is where when we do this on the podcast, it's basically a party trick. So we're not talking to the dreamer. So I'm free to just take the images and the archetypes from that dream and just kind of run them through all the filters in my head and say, you know what, archetypally it could mean this. Metaphorically, here's what it's hinting at. But it's great we have you with us so you can respond to things. Would you describe yourself as a control freak?
Yes and no. I'm not a typical, like, the person that's more overt about it. I would say it's more passive, and it's definitely something that has been a blind spot that I didn't realize was control. Yeah.
Okay. What's interesting to me about this dream is it's giving you two perspectives. You have the perspective of being in the plane. And what do we know about the people who, and it's significant to me that this started happening after 9/11. So what we know about 9/11, I think, is influencing what you're dreaming about. So what do we know about the people who were on those planes? They were captives. They weren't in control. And so they were kind of in it. They were in this situation. They had no control there. And so the imagery of this dream seems to be, to me, that sometimes you feel like you're out of control, that you're inside this flight, this plane that you have no control over, and you can't stop it from hitting these buildings. You can't stop it from hitting these skyscrapers. And you've expressed that, you said you don't really have flying anxiety, but a little bit comes in. And so, but then every once in a while with a dream, you're outside of it and you're looking down. And when you're outside looking in or looking up at it, what happens? The plane goes up. And so theoretically, it gets away from the danger of those skyscrapers. And so to me, what I'm getting, and this is the scary part of dream analysis. I give my interpretation and you get to say, oh no, that's bullshit. That's not it. Or you get to say, oh, okay, I think you're onto something. This dream is kind of suggesting that when you take a step back, when you look at the situation from the outside, there is the potential for it to transcend the danger, for it to go higher, for it to get away from all the obstacles. And so, but when you keep yourself immersed right inside the thing, when you try to control it, when you're aware of your lack of control, then it gets scary. Then you're going right towards stuff, and you have to trust that whoever's piloting the plane is going to miss these things. And so, to me, this feels like a dream about kind of where you're placing your attention. Are you able to step back from the thing, or does something happen emotionally when you invest and you put yourself right in the middle of it? And so the great thing about my job is I get to do this, and then when somebody says, okay, yeah, but how do I apply that? And I say, oh, that's Sarah's job. So
well, I'm also another thing that I would be curious about with it too is kind of tracking what's going on in your life based on which perspective you're being shown. Because, so for example, if you are in a time where everything feels chaotic and you are in the plane versus outside of it, then the message may be, look at where you're holding on to some control here or whatever. But then it's like when you're outside of it, it's showing you that everything's actually okay because you have that different perspective. So I would say if the dream continues, then your job then is to look at what is going on in my life around the perspective that it's showing me here, to show me how I could be looking at it.
That is really helpful. And I think that this calls for some reflection and journaling.
Absolutely. And that's the other part of it is there's one part, us, talking about it a little bit, but all dreams are for the dreamer to interpret. And so our job is more about asking you questions about what things mean to you. And then again, sharing the archetypal, images, and associations, but it really is, it's kind of like a two-person thing, because then it's like balls back in your court to go and actually do some of that internal reflection as the dreamer and start to take those things apart. And then the other part that I would like to kind of come up specifically for you and this dream is how to ritualize it so that you're giving the nod to, I hear you, I'm exploring this, thank you. Right? We always want to say thank you, I think too, like show that gratitude. I think it's like, oh, I just dream every night, but it's like, oh, whoa, I've been having this recurring dream for 20 years, like, and it's showing me things, like it's giving me this message. Wow, that's like incredible, right? That's amazing. So like, I think part of the ritual is having that gratitude and continuing that relationship. So in my head, I'm thinking like having like a little miniature like toy or keychain of a plane or something like that. But like it doesn't matter what I think. What feels like it would feel good to you to kind of bring this full circle and have some sort of ritual that you can and a physical, tangible thing that you're sort of is that representation.
Yeah, I love that idea actually of just having like a little airplane, because it's a reminder. It doesn't happen all the time, so I think it's a reminder for me to sit in reflection about this, like every once in a while, not just when the dream happens, and to
Correct.
not necessarily like to treat it with, I love how you said to treat it with gratitude, because this is literally goddesses. Dreaming is direct information from, if I understand you correctly, source,
Yep.
God, the universe,
Yep.
cosmic field, whatever you want to call it. Like this is information for you. And I just feel that we're really so fortunate to be in a world where things are changing, right? Paradigms are shifting. And for those you, I talk about basically on the podcast a lot, to trust yourself and to use your own wisdom and not necessarily seek external validation, right? This is an amazing tool.
Exactly.
To be able to dive into that wisdom.
Yes, because you can ask questions before you go into the dream, right? You can again, just even like you can set an intention to remember your dream, you can set an intention, a powerful intention, to impress upon the dream and to ask a question and have that answered back to you. And so again, if you ask a question and then you have some really crazy dream and you're like, well, Banana Man didn't tell me anything, I don't know. But actually that was the message, that was the answer to your question. You just didn't know how to understand the dream. So that's why it's so valuable to have that, and open up that portal essentially to this wisdom and this higher knowledge. So beautiful. Yeah,
you're so powerful. I love this conversation. Thank you guys so much. So tell me a little bit specifically how, if people are listening to you, how can they get in touch with you? How can they work with you? How can they dive into dreams more? If you could just share that. And I'm also linking all of this into the show notes.
Yeah. So our podcast is called Dreamlovers. And so you can go to dreamloverspodcast.com or wherever you download and listen to your podcast, and you can find it there. And if you have a dream that you want to have analyzed on the show anonymously, you can email it to I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say there's a form on, but you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a form on the podcast, but then also you can email it to dreams@dreamloverspodcast.com, and we will, if it's good, like it may be your dream is crap and we don't want to have anything to do with it, but if it's just if we can get to it, if it makes it into the line, then we can analyze it anonymously on the podcast. But as we've made clear, the phrase we used earlier, it's kind of a party trick. You know, anybody who
the individual present, the dreamer.
Yeah. Anybody who understands metaphor and archetypes and has devoted the time and had the training, anybody can do this. That's not to say I do in my grandiose moments think I have a gift. Anybody could learn to do this. But if you really want kind of an example of what we did with you today, if you want to work with us, then we have a dream circle. And I'm already stuttering and rambling. I'm going to let Sara describe the dream circle because she's clear in these moments.
Yeah, so we just take it one step further from the podcast, and we really dive in with each individual and with each dreamer to uncover those blind spots, as we talked about earlier. So, you know, for example, if control is one of the issues coming up, right? Typically there's an underlying message, or you know, one we just did recently was about fear of judgment. And so then it's like, now we take the message and then we can actually start to have those practical applications, because ultimately the whole point is to have the experience of life that we want to have. And so that's what we help people do.
So Dream Circle is the name of the membership, and they can join now. Is it open all the time?
It's open. Yeah, it's open all the time. Mm-hmm.
That is so exciting.
And something we do in that I want to highlight real quick. Sara and I are both board certified clinical hypnotherapists, but Sara is good at it on a level that amazes me. Like, she's really, really good at it. And so one of the things we're doing, there's this idea called dreaming the dream forward. And so a lot of times when a dream ends, we think, oh, that felt kind of unfinished. Like I wanted to see what happened next, or I didn't quite get the message. And so Sara's developing a hypnotherapy that you get through the dream circles, where we lead you, like, what if you were still in this dream? What could happen next? What message didn't you get? What would the person say to you that maybe they didn't say? And I am so excited about this idea, because it's like lucid dreaming without having to know how to lucid dream. It's like I said, it's dreaming the dream forward. It's learning to really get back into the dream and find the wisdom. And I'm super excited about it.
I just love what you guys are doing for the world. You guys are doing an amazing work. And I know that this episode is going to be very, very helpful to anybody listening. Thank you guys so much for your time, for your energy, for your humor.
Thank you so much for having us. It truly is an honor. And it's just been so fun hanging out with you and chatting.
I know. It's like we're just chatting in, like in front of the fireplace. This has been a blast. Thank you, Sara and Patch.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I'm going to link up Sara and Patch's information, everything that we just mentioned on their Dream Circle membership, their website, everything in the show notes. So look for it there. Thank you guys both so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Angela Noel, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have found value in listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could kindly share this podcast with those you care about. Please help me spread the word of empowerment and possibility and expansion by sharing this podcast. Or you could also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Remember to follow me on Instagram at I am Angela Noel, or you could go to my website at www.angelanoelinternational.com to learn more about my work and to find out how you can work with me. Thank you very much.